All right. Well, first of all, thank you for your patience as I was getting linked in here with on the meeting here, get my link ready. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name's Austin Odell, and I would like to thank you for being here this evening with the Unmet Transit Needs for 2020. Um, I'll just go ahead and introduce staff. My name's Austin Odell. I'm the Transit Services Manager. Martha?
Yes, my name is Martha Guerrero. I'm the transit tech.
Stock you? And you might need to unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Eustaqui Valdez. I'm the transfer coordinator with City of Santa Maria.
Great, thank you. Um, Martha, could you ask in Spanish, give an introduction in Spanish, and ask if there's anyone that needs Spanish translation?
Yes. Buenas noches y bienvenidos a nuestro taller de servicio de autobús. Si habla español y necesita traducción, por favor, levantar la mano en Zoom. Pueden encontrar la mano de elevación en el lado derecho de la pantalla en la parte inferior. So, Austin, if you will let me share the screen.
Okay, I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
You have the screen?
Yes, thank you. Ok, y aquí puede mirar que la señorita anda alzando la mano cuando tengo una pregunta y la flechita abajo está apuntando a raise hand. Okay, so I'll leave it back to you and I'll wait a few seconds to see if anybody raises their hand. Okay, and Austin, let me see if there's anybody that has raised their hand, and I do not see anybody.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Martha. We'll just go ahead since there are no one indicating that there's a need for Spanish translation. We'll go ahead and proceed with the meeting. Great. All right, so quick introductions. We're going to review the purpose of this meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about our current COVID-19 responses and our recovery plan, our technology improvements, and then we'll go over our questions and comments. Well, if you, we're just going to go ahead and present the information, and then I would like to reserve, if you have any questions or comments, we'll just reserve that towards the end of the presentation, and then I will give some instructions on how to raise your hand, and then at that point, Martha can unmute and you can provide comments. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed. So the purpose of this meeting is generally a requirement. The city receives Transportation Development Act funds, and recipients of those funds are required to meet to provide unmet transit needs. Required to meet to identify if there are any unmet transit needs that are reasonable to meet before they are allowed to spend their TDA dollars on other transportation projects, such as roads or road maintenance or things of that nature. So I think the big takeaway from that is that we need to identify if there's anything before we need to use it on transit before we use it on any other projects. We identify the need for public transportation that is currently not being met. So, excuse me, City of Santa Maria is currently claiming 100% of their dollars of their TDA allocation for public transportation. So this effort satisfies the regional requirement, and there is no expectation of additional funding for expanding service. So I just wanted to point that out, that the city is spending 100% of their TDA dollars, and just because we're having this, there is no additional expectation for additional funding. So I didn't want to, I say this because I don't want to have any false hope that we can expand service than what we're currently providing. So first of all, we have some outreach efforts. We identified our outreach was for this meeting was Santa Maria newspaper, the Sun, El Latino newspaper, public service announcements. We have a Facebook page this was advertised on. We have bus cards that are inside the buses, and then we also have flyers at our buses, at our outlets. Sorry. So at this point, I wanted to talk a little bit about our COVID-19 response. And I first of all want to say thank you for all of those individuals who are using the bus during this unprecedented time. And I want to say how much I appreciate that you are using our service. And for those who are watching this on YouTube and you are using their SMAT as their or as your primary source of transportation, I again thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, and I'm honored that we are able to provide this essential service during this time. So, and I do want to express we are being really safe. We're doing everything that we can to provide a safe environment for our passengers and drivers. Even pre-pandemic, we started providing disinfectant kits beginning as early as August 2019. And because as things started approaching, I guess, known about this disease, this virus, we started disinfecting our buses extensively with hospital-grade disinfectant as early as March 2020. Soon after that, April 1st, we started providing weekend service, 7 days a week. So we did start providing limited service and reducing service, but we are providing, I would say, a skeleton service to provide, essential service throughout our community. And at the same time, we suspended fare collection. We wanted to minimize the interaction between the driver and passenger. So we suspended fare collection so there would be passing of passes and revenue. We also, at that same time, for the same purpose, started having rear door service. So we wanted to, again, providing that distancing between passengers and drivers during this time. Also, we had at the same time we had mask requirements as mandated by the state in April. So the state says if you don't wear a mask, you can't ride. But there are some exceptions. If there is some reason why you have to, well, then there are certain accommodations. We also have a limited capacity on our buses, so we wanted to maintain as much as we can as far as that social distancing on our buses. So you would see on our buses that some seats are not available, and that's to maximize the distance between passengers, similar to what you might see in other businesses throughout the state. We also in August started putting hand sanitizer stations in our buses, and that started in August. Some of these things we actually started implementing, though they may seem like June and August as a delay, but we actually started ordering those things as early as April, and early on. It just took a while for us to get everything that we needed to install in the buses. So where do we go from here as far as what happens? So we do have a recovery plan. It's very basic right now. I would say the first thing would be on that left side of that box there is passenger and driver safety. We need to get the buses safe. We want to be able to provide a higher level of service, more frequent service, and we want to be able to, of course, start collecting fares again. So first of all, we need to get driver barriers in the buses to provide protection between the passengers and drivers. And we want to also provide mobile payment. So we provide an alternative to providing cash and passes. So you can use either basically your smart device and be able to pay for your fare. So essentially, we would resume fare collection at that point. And we also want to provide real-time schedule information. So right now we're using our weekend service right now, holiday service. But as we start ramping service up, we'll probably be going away from the printed schedule, so that the printed schedule will be essentially obsolete. So we want to provide a tool for our passengers to know when the bus is actually arriving. So we'll have, you could use your smartphone, so you could download the app and you'll be able to see exactly when the bus is coming. And then soon after we roll out this type of technology, we'll have real-time schedule displays at bus stops as well as our transit centers. So you'll know when the buses are arriving and departing. So in terms of service, as I mentioned, we want to increase the level of service that we're providing. We want to increase the frequency of service, and we want to target the needs of our services. And I know that I did skip over limited resources. So we don't have all of our drivers right now just because of the level of service that we have, and then during the pandemic and some of the other restrictions. So we do have limited services. So we're going to have to direct our resources, our drivers, where we can provide the best level of service that we can. So as we start ramping up service, and we hope that there'll be a point where we can actually hire more drivers to basically increase our service and to get back to normal service and to some degree. And I know it's going to take some time before we get there. So I kind of mentioned those as talked about our technology on improvements, but I'll go into them a little bit more. And I think it'll provide some clarifying points as well. So we are going to be introducing Wi-Fi on the buses. So all of our fixed route buses will have Wi-Fi. So you'll be able to check your email, do some, I would say, some limited surfing on the web, but streaming of services like Netflix and Hulu, you won't be able to have those. You won't be able to access those types of services at this time, probably just mainly because they take so much bandwidth, and we just want to be able to provide limited type of service. We don't want to encourage an environment where people are just staying on the bus and riding around so they get to watch their Netflix. We want to be able to, or their other streaming services, we want to provide them with access to their files, access to their email, so that they can conduct their daily lives in business, school, or whatever they might need. And I think it'll be a great benefit while you're on the bus. You won't miss a beat. We also want to provide the mobile payment system. And I already talked a little bit about that, but rest assured, cash will still be accepted. However, passengers will be responsible for feeding the fare box. Drivers will no longer be able to assist because of the pandemic. So passengers with cash and coins will have to insert their payment in the fare box. They will have to take their pass and swipe it accordingly. I know our drivers have been providing excellent customer service to a lot of you, but because of pandemic and the fear of spreading the virus, because of using cash and others and passes, they will no longer be doing that. We want to provide we want to do that to protect you as well as our drivers. And real-time arrival time, and we talked a little bit about that before, so you'll be able to access, when you download the app, you'll be able to, on your phone, you'll be able to find out what the schedule is and then see a map exactly where the bus is. So if you need you'll know when you'll need to run to the bus stop or to leave from wherever you might be and get to the bus stop and to catch your bus. And you'll be able to access the same information from your computers, and you'll be seeing monitors popping up at select bus stops as well as our transit center. Before we go to questions and concerns, I would like to also mention that I just want to just do a big shout out at our drivers. I want to say how proud I am of them and providing the essential service. And the California Transit Association basically recognize all first frontline passengers throughout the state and gave them the designation of the Professional of the Year Award for 2020. This is a very prestigious award um, um, that is reserved for usually for that's recognizing for a Professional of the Year award, somebody that's providing outstanding service in the industry for transit. Well, the board of directors of California Transit Association and the Small Operators Committee saw no one more deserving than the drivers and other essential operators for essential people who are in the transit industry providing the essential service that they provide, our drivers provide. So they basically called them heroes, and I just wanted to do a shout out on good job. I really appreciate all the work that our drivers do. So at this time, I would be wanting to entertain any operational concerns. Just again, I'm going to mention that the city does provide 100% of their dollars goes to transit, providing transit. There's really no unmet transit need, but I would be interested to hear any operational concerns. If there's bus stops that are not being met or need to be cleaned, or we need a bus stop, or one's not being needed here, or maybe there's a location where you would like to have bus service in the future. And then is there a timing issue? Timing is going to just be difficult right now with the current pandemic. But at this point, if you would raise your hand in Zoom, and what you would do to access that, you would go to the top of your screen. There's a point where you see participants. You would click on that, and then you'll see all the list of the participants in the meeting. And then there's on the lower right hand of that dialog box, you'll see raise hand, and you would push that to raise your hand, and then at that point, I believe Martha will unmute you, and you'll be able to provide your comment. I do want to mention, we'll try to answer the comment at this point, but we'll address that. But I want to mention that these are being recorded, and we will, if we don't have the answer to your comment, we'll definitely be able to address that and get back with you. I have Jeffrey Wheeler. I won't say the names, but it is, and I also have, well, I guess I will, and David Dennis. So at this point, are there any comments? We have two people on the line here.
I've ridden the bus system in Santa Maria, and
oh, I'm sorry. Who is speaking?
This is Jeffrey.
Okay, you're unmuted. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
You're welcome. I've ridden the bus system and in Santa Maria, and I find it very comfortable. At this time, I don't have any suggestions for improvements in routes or bus stops. I'd love to see more people use the bus and use their cars less. And I think to do this, that we do need to increase frequency and I guess there's a balance between frequency and the size of the bus that we're running. But I think also that the drivers are to be applauded and thanked for continuing to provide an essential service during this time.
Yes, thank you very much for your comment, Mr. Wheeler. one thing that is on our short-range transit plan list is to increase headways, frequency, and service. Though I think that the one of the recommendations in the short-range transit plan was to, like I said, expand frequency of service, expand the timing of service, providing 15-minute headways during peak level of service. But of course, that was pre-COVID. So I would probably say, that is going to be a recommendation that we were going to keep our eyes on. So when this unprecedented time lifts and we can start resuming normal service, that would be something that we would definitely look at and that we would definitely proceed with. And I definitely agree with your comment. I mean, I would love to see more people use the service, and I think this is such a growing community. Santa Maria is the most populated city in Santa Barbara County. So I think we're kind of like at one of those crossroads where service is going to become more and more needed and prevalent as traffic comes in and more congestion and more population comes here. So I think there is definitely going to be more opportunities for additional service and high increased ridership. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Does that conclude your comments, Mr. Wheeler?
I could say a few more things, but I'd like to give Mr. Dennis a chance to say something first, and then maybe I would take another turn.
Fantastic. All right.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Austin. This is David Dennis. I live here in Santa Maria and have used the bus at times. I do applaud your ability to keep the system operating as well as you've been able to during the COVID pandemic, and look forward to an opportunity when you can expand it back to the kinds of levels of service that we all want to see again. I do think the idea of having real-time data available via a smartphone, via an app, would expand, or at least have the potential to expand service to people that may not have used it. One of the challenges I think faced now is really kind of learning I guess what I'll call the secret codes, learning where the buses run, how it works, how you address it. And so finding another way to get that information to, I guess, into the hands of our residents, I think will be a positive move. Also, the real-time information on the bus stops that you mentioned, I think that would be very, very good to see, that making the use of our transit system more accessible by making it more visible and more and easier to understand how to use it, I think will benefit the entire community. So I applaud your direction or your movement in that direction. Also tying it to other forms of transit. I know that using the transit center for the Guadalupe Flyer so that it's connected to the Amtrak is a valuable thing. Having the Greyhound bus use the transit center, and if there is any possible way in the future to encourage Amtrak to bring their regular bus that stops over at Nicholson and the freeway, to bring that to the transit center also might be a way to improve those connections between all of the other transit systems that exist. I guess that said, again, I'd like to say I appreciate the work that you've done to keep the system operational. There are certainly people that would not be able to exist well in this community without it, and I'm sure that that probably some of the loss is because of schools not being in session. And when that comes back, again, the app-based system will be a good addition. One last thing that I failed to mention is the plan to increase the transit at Allen Hancock. I think is a positive thing, that the work that's going to be done to put that in place, and again, along with that, any ability to get that information into the hands of our residents so that everyone is aware of those options and aware, you know, it's a hard thing to do in our fragmented media to find one way to, you know, there's no one way to let everybody know about a change or an update in your service, but any efforts in informing the public, I think would be valuable. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your comments. I think we are working hard towards the real-time schedule information. I think we'll be seeing that soon. I don't want to announce a date because one thing I've learned during these unprecedented times that you just can't ever lock in a date right now. But it is something we're working hard on, as well as the Wi-Fi. So I think you're right. Real-time schedule information will just be fantastic benefit for our customers. I think the Wi-Fi will help provide an attraction to the service. I think Amtrak, I think that's a great comment. Though we've had difficult time to get them to the transit center, but we'll keep working on them. See, at this point, I just want to say for all the comments, I really appreciate you work being writers for our service and I appreciate your comments, and I really say that gratitude. I would just direct that to our drivers. They're really they've been really great heroes on all of this. So I think I see a hand, Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, Mr. Odell. I thought of a few more comments.
Sure.
I wanted to say that I really like to see the bike racks on the local buses. I haven't used one yet, but I'm glad to know they're there if I need them. I would suggest it would be nice to have some long-term bike lockers at the transit center. And I love our transit center. That is beautiful and it works really nicely.
Great.
Long-term bike lockers, like the bike lid, something that you can park your bike in and keep it covered. It would be nice to see the bus schedules at each bus stop to be able to, you know, if you dash out the door, you don't quite remember when the bus is coming. Currently, in the future, you're gonna, hopefully, you said you're gonna have monitors, and I think those are great. I used those when I was in San Luis Obispo a month ago or so, and that was really nice. You push the button and it tells you when the next bus is coming, how many more minutes. That was really nice.
Yeah, that was nice.
But currently, it seems like for at least for your time stops, or that it would be nice to know about when a bus would come. I don't know how you think about it, but the worst case scenario for me in taking a bus is a heavy rainstorm. It's nice while you're on the bus, but when you get off, if you're going to get off at a shopping center on Broadway, you've got quite a hike to go to get to the store and shelter again. Part of me wants to suggest that the buses should have a bus stop in the shopping center, but that's probably not practicable. But it's just something I'm aware of as thinking about using buses. And I understand you also have another bus service besides the fixed route services. And I'm not sure how they work. You have it like a dial a ride or something, and who is our target group for that?
Yeah, that is, we provide complimentary paratransit service. It's for our ADA paratransit services. Hold on 1 second. I think I just lost everything. Uh-oh. Are you
I'm
guys
still
there?
here.
Okay. I don't know. So we have an ADA paratransit service. So those who can't ride the bus have the availability of a paratransit service. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so they have the availability of paratransit service. Oh, I stopped my screening. My sharing has stopped. I'm going to put it back on. Sorry, that's why my computer was going nuts. So it's paratransit service. So if you can't use the bus, regular bus, then we would provide paratransit service. And that is it's like a dial ride service. It's curb to curb service, but we also provide origin to destination service. So if you're a person with disability, can't use the bus, or can't get to the bus stop, or get from the bus stop to your final destination, then we would have this dial ride type service available. You would have to become certified and eligible. You can apply for it. You'd be 21 days eligible, presumed eligible. There's an application, and our website has all that information where to get the application and to fill it out, to submit it. Once you become certified, then you would receive a card, and you can use that card anywhere in the country, in the United States. You know how that would work the service model works is that if you would request a trip, and you get your request could be plus or minus 1 hour of your requested trip, and then we would be able to pick you up, take you to your destination, and then you would have to schedule for your return trip as well. So anyway, it's a complimentary. It's providing comparable service to our regular bus service. That's what that is.
That's good. That's good. I was just, my folks are aging. They don't live in Santa Maria, but I was just trying to think if they wanted to use a bus and what they would need to go through. So they are both certified as handicapped in some way, so that would work for them.
Where do they live?
Now they live in Phoenix now.
Okay.
Not the best place to live right now, but that's where they're at.
Right. So I know that they do. Well, every company, public agency that has a fixed route service is required to provide this type of service. So it's kind of like an extension of their regular fixed route service. And I'd like to remind you, I think this is good, especially those who are listening in on YouTube. We're required, a public agency is required to provide that service 3/4 of a mile of each of the bus routes. So it's not everywhere, as long as their origin and destination is within 3/4 of a mile of that bus route.
Oh.
And it is a little bit more expensive. They can charge up to twice the fixed route fare. So if, let's say, for discussion, SMAT's bus service is $1.50. So for that same trip on that ADA paratransit service, it would be $3 for each trip. And if they need an attendant or a companion, if they need to have a service, an attendant, meaning that they're basically extensions of themselves, then they would need to, that attendant would not pay an additional fare. But let's say if they brought a friend, they're a companion, they would just pay the regular, they would have to pay the fare for the ADA service. So anyway, if you wanted to know more, I would definitely encourage you to
Oh,
call the agency of where they live, and they can get set up
Oh.
for that.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Odell. I did want to say that I wrote to Amtrak, and they have yet to respond about why they might not, why don't they move their end of the line to our transit center? If you have an address or a position that I could write to, I'd be happy to write again.
Yeah, I've written to Washington a couple of times, and I just haven't gotten any. I have not received a response. I did talk to somebody, and I'll tell you the reason why they don't do that. They're not interested. Not that they don't want to connect. It's an operational issue, and I understand the operational issue. So that bus is it's trying to express to Oakland. And so the time on their route is limited from getting from Santa Barbara, maybe even sometimes Lompoc to Oakland, to the Oakland depot. So what happens is going to our transit center. It's literally 30 minutes from the airport. I mean, from the exit. So 15 minutes from the exit to the transit center, serve, and then going back to the freeway, and then resuming route. It's too much time. So that's why they like that current bus stop that's right over on Nicholson. They can drop, they can serve, and then get right on the freeway. That's the reason why they don't serve our transit center.
Because the route, I used to take the route between here and Hanford, and this was the end of the line.
Yeah. So that was, and I asked somebody that was a little bit more in the know than I was, and they also experienced that personally. And I go, why don't you go to the transit center? I asked the driver. He goes, too much time. We don't have time. So we got to get to Oakland.
Wow.
So, and then I did confirm that with somebody that was more in the administrative area. But and right now, I think all those regional services are having such a hard time of maintaining the ridership that they have. I think they're just struggling to keep what they have right now.
Right. The only other comment I had would be that it would be nice to have bus shelters everywhere. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that comment. We basically provide. We do have a criteria for bus shelters and bus amenities. We have a bus stop plan. We don't provide shelters at every location. It's based on the number of how many people are actually utilizing that bus stop. So, for instance, if a bus stop only is generating maybe 5 to 10 people, it's just going to get a bus stop sign and probably a schedule holder there. I know that we don't have schedule holders out there, but we want to get smart schedule holders. That's kind of the idea, where they actually show the times. And then as you increase the number of ridership activity at bus stops, then it would warrant a bench. And then once you hit 30 passengers per day, then you would warrant a bus shelter. So shelters are not cheap, and sometimes not only are they they're expensive, but having the space and having to install them on the public right of way can be cumbersome, or it's just becomes impractical because there's just not enough right of way to provide the ADA access and so forth, and then and there's just not enough public right of way to do that. And it's basically a lot of based on the passenger activity and the expense to that. But I mean, I understand what you're, and it's generally not, I don't think I've ever seen any bus agency that'll put a bus stop, a shelter at every location. But it's just mainly, there's just the expense of that, and maintaining that expense is, we want to provide as much service on the street as opposed to shelters and then providing the maintenance of those shelters. We don't want to take away from the service on the street as opposed to maintaining a shelter that might only generate a few passengers a day.
Okay. I got it.
Martha asked, how did you hear about today's meeting? Jeffrey, if you wouldn't mind saying where you learned about our meeting.
I want to say Facebook.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. Did you have something on Facebook?
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to make a suggestion also that you have a presence on Nextdoor. Nextdoor. Are you familiar with Nextdoor, Mr. Odell?
No, but I will. Nextdoor. I am not familiar with that, but before we go to that, Mr. Dennis, how did you hear of the meeting?
Well, I believe it might have been Facebook also, that it was possibly linked through a Santa Maria Times article, is maybe my recollection, but that might not be correct. But
okay.
I think that's possibly where I saw I don't know if it was in a Santa Maria Times article,
okay.
But that's, for some reason, that's what my recollection is.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Back to Nextdoor. What is that?
Nextdoor is like an app or a web service. So it links people socially by where they live. So in Santa Maria, it's divided down into neighborhoods. So if you become a member and they verify your address, they actually send you a postcard. If you become a member, then you're linked into, you can connect with all your neighbors. So like I live in a carriage district, and so I can send a message out that I know that's going to be seen only by people in the carriage district. And then I can also send out post messages or post announcements to all the neighborhoods in Santa Maria. So if the transit authority had some presence there, they could put up announcements. I believe PG&E has a presence there, and now the new company was it S3E or something, and some other public companies have presence on Nextdoor, and it's a pretty active. The people there are pretty active and in communication with each other about services, helping each other, where to buy things. There was a thread this past week or so just on how come our water is coming out looks a little more milky than before, and some people knew that there had been a change in the water system, and they posted links to the city's announcements about using the groundwater. And so I think if you had a presence there and let people know about the buses, that you get more attention and maybe see an increase in ridership if people know more about the bus service.
Well, thank you for that information. We can take a look at that. Great. Are there any other last comments before we conclude the meeting? Well, I want to say thank you very much. I really appreciate your comments, Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Dennis. I really appreciate your taking the time out for this evening to be part of this this outreach, and I hope that you'll join us in future outreach efforts that we have. You provide, I think, very valuable information to us, and you have very positive comments. I appreciate your consideration of our drivers and acknowledgement of our drivers and our service. And I want to just say appreciate your loyalty on our riders, being a rider in our service. So at this time, if there's no other comments, I'm just going to go ahead and conclude the meeting. And thank you very much for your attendance and participation.
Okay. You're welcome.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us.
Thank you for attending. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Good evening. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.
Gracias. Adios.